Today on Divergence SMP, I'm going to make a massive machine that will convert these four raw materials, iron, cobblestone, wood logs, and redstone dust, into crafters. Now, such a machine you may think is impractical to the point of being insane. Was it insane for the devs to make the crafter and introduce it to the game in the first place? Is it insane for me to eat my own feces? Perhaps. But if making a machine that crafts crafters using crafters is crazy, I don't want to be sane. The techniques I use to build this are going to be actually useful in a lot of more practical builds. So the crafter that makes the crafters will go here. It's facing down into this chest, which is fed by a hopper into another chest. I'm trying to avoid using anything that might count as a workstation. When you're working in Bedrock Edition, barrels are something that you'd be reluctant to work with because you don't want to put anything anywhere near where you might have villagers that they might claim as a workstation. But by using a chest here, I can't open this. So I have a hopper going into another chest where the crafters will ultimately end up, and I can actually open that chest and access it. Now into the crafter, I'm going to put the materials that makes the recipe, and there's the recipe for the crafter. So this has 4 ingredients: a crafting table, a dropper, redstone dust, and iron ingots. And I need a separate hopper to feed each of those ingredients into the crafter. I only want the crafter in the center to operate when this crafter in the center, all the slots are completely full with a stack of items. If any of these hoppers that feed into it are empty, it won't be able to refill the crafter in the middle. So I'm going to have it so this redstone torch connects to an etho clock. And while this torch is lit, it's going to turn off that clock, and that clock will be used to activate the crafter. If this hopper had items in it, it would mean that it's completely filled the crafter with those items. And so this comparator turns on, and that will power this target block and turn off the redstone torch and allow the etho clock to operate and activate this crafter. For the redstone dust, where I'm placing the redstone dust, in fact, as much as possible in here, I'm using glass blocks because they don't conduct redstone power. And I don't want the redstone dust to power the blocks that's moving across. Oh. That works from there. Those are in the wrong position. Dope. So I got that hopper, that hopper. That hopper's wrong. Now I have a comparator that looks at this hopper compared to looking at this hopper, a compared to looking at that hopper, and a compared to looking at that hopper. If any of those 4 hoppers are empty, that means it can't feed more into the crafter in the center, and the redstone torch will turn on, and all of them feed over to that block. There. There we go. Alright, this is the timer I'm going to use to activate the crafter that's under this block. I put 6 items into the hoppers. And that's because there's 5 iron ingots here. And I need to give the hopper that's feeding iron ingots time to refill the crafter before it's activated again. By putting 6 items into the hoppers, this timer is long enough that the crafter is going to be full every time it's activated. There. Now, if any one of these torches is on, it transfers redstone power to here, and it turns off the clock. Let me just make sure that the furthest away torches can power that far. So with just this torch on, this power still reaches there and keeps that etho clock off. And with just that on, the power still reaches that far. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Barely far enough. But it is far enough. Make sure I place these torches. Yeah, now I'm going to put an observer here. Redstone dust there. That for a second. Now, every time this redstone block moves, it's either going to power this redstone dust in front of the observer or unpower it. And whenever it changes, it sends a pulse here, which I'm going to extend back to this crafter. But I don't want to actually activate that yet. Let me just power that temporarily. That will permanently turn that off until I throw the lever again, because I don't want to activate this crafter until everything's set up. One of the ingredients that the crafter needs is droppers. And I'm actually going to need a crafter to make the droppers too. That's where the droppers are going to go. Into that, I need to feed cobblestone and redstone dust. That's going to require a similar setup to the crafter. The dropper crafter just has 2 inputs instead of 4. Because there's 7 cobblestone in this recipe, I need to put 8 sticks into this hopper clock so that there's enough time. Whoops. Like that. Now this is the same kind of concept. If either of these hoppers are empty, if either this hopper or this hopper is empty, then the comparator will turn off and these redstone torches, at least one of them will turn on, and that deactivates the hopper clock. For now, I want it deactivated with that lever until I'm done building everything. And that redstone dust getting powered or unpowered activates the observer, which in turn will send power to that, to that block and power this crafter. Okay, now I need to feed into this redstone dust and cobblestone. That's a little tricky because I need 1 redstone dust for each crafter and I need 1 redstone dust for each dropper, and for each crafter I need 2 redstone dust. I don't want to have 2 separate feeds for it. I want to have 1 chest to put all the redstone dust in, which means I have to route it 2 different directions, but I don't need it evenly distributed. I need more redstone dust going to the crafter than I need redstone dust going to the dropper crafter. I think there's a way to do that. It's not perfect, but it should work. That will feed redstone dust. 1 hopper under that double chest is going to go toward the dropper crafter there, and 1 hopper goes straight down and over to the crafter. I need twice as much redstone dust going to the crafter. I don't know if I can get twice as much, but I can definitely make it so that there's less going to the dropper crafter. This is something I use in item filters to slow down the rate at which things pass through the hoppers in order to make sure that the filters don't miss anything. But in this event, what it'll do is simply slow it down so that I have less items flowing through this hopper. When there's any items in this hopper, the comparator turns on, powering this block, powering this redstone dust, and then powering that block, which locks the hopper that feeds into this hopper until this hopper is empty. And that's going to mean things will flow through there more slowly. So now I have a bunch of redstone dust feeding into there. You see that flashing. The redstone dust is feeding through there, and this hopper, it's a much faster pace that it's flowing through. Is it double speed? Probably not. But at least the distribution will be a little bit closer to the 2-to-1 that it should be. But now I have to craft the crafting tables that also go into this. But at least the crafting tables only require a single ingredient. That'll make things a little easier. I'll feed it in that side. Crafter maker is get fed wood planks to make crafting tables. It's gotta be a target block. So this comparator is going to put out a redstone signal even if the crafter doesn't have any items in it, because I have these slots locked. So it's actually putting out a signal strength of 5 because there's 5 locked slots, and so it's going to continually pulse. I need this to only turn on when this crafter is completely full. So that means put another comparator there. Now I could just put a crafter here, lock all the slots, and now that's putting out a strength of 9 to the side of the comparator, and until the signal from behind is at least 9, it won't output anything. And that's a good way to do it, but I know it's ironic for me to say this since I'm making crafters right now, but crafters are expensive, and there's cheaper ways to do it. I could just use a furnace and get more sticks because I need a bunch of sticks to put in. Furnace to be full enough for there to be a redstone signal strength of 9 coming out of it. I put a full stack of 64 sticks in there. And then 48 sticks in there. And now this is putting out a strength of 9. And that's a heck of a lot cheaper than using a full crafter, which requires 5 iron ingots and a dropper and a crafting table. You know, this just requires some sticks and 8 cobblestone to make it. It's a lot cheaper. There's nothing wrong with using a crafter there instead and locking all the slots, because it's certainly a lot simpler to understand how to do that. Now, put the wood blocks in here, and this will only activate when it's full to make crafting tables. Alright, that's great, except the raw material I'm feeding into this whole system is wood logs, not planks. So I need to convert the wood logs into planks. That's going to be another crafter. Over here. Chest there. only downside to this is it's going to make noise all the time, but it's not a very loud noise because it's going to pulse even when the crafter is empty. I could use the same kind of setup as I did here, with a signal going to the side to lock it, but this thing's getting kind of huge. I'm trying to conserve space. It'll make a little bit of noise, but it's not very loud. Now I can feed into this chest any kind of logs, doesn't matter what kind. It's going to convert those logs into planks, which feeds into this chest. And then the planks feed into this crafter to make crafting tables, which then feed down into the crafter. Now all I got left is to feed iron ingots into the crafter. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I also need to feed cobblestone into the dropper crafter. I forgot about that. That's going to go there. My chest for cobblestone. Oh, no, not that. The wrong thing in there. That's fine, I can pull these out. Just for the iron ingots. Looking good. In fact, everything's full except the droppers. I have to activate this clock to make the droppers, so I can start feeding droppers into this thing. And once that's full of droppers, I'll flip the other switch to activate the crafter, and this thing will be fully operational. Tell you what I'm gonna do. Replace that block with a frog light because I want to make sure everything's lit up here. Same here. Replace that. Frog light. Also make sure to run redstone dust across that so that when I activate that hopper clock, I can start making the crafters. No doubt about it, this thing is pretty ridiculous looking. But there is the crafter for crafting crafters here. I have a crafter for crafting droppers here. And I'm a little concerned that the crafter that crafts droppers is a little slower than the crafter. But I don't think that'll be an issue. And then I have a crafter for crafting tables. Hard to access. Here. And then a crafter for crafting planks out of logs here. I did add a few frog lights into here, so that hopefully stuff will be well lit enough to not cause any problems. That sucker's built. It's good to go. Just have to flip one lever and get the crafter going. Down here you see the redstone torches attached to the target blocks. There's 4 of them around the base. All of them are off, because the 4 hoppers that feed directly into the crafter all contain items. Everything's backed up, and that's how I want it. It's time. It's time to activate it. I've been putting it off for too long. Throw the final switch. And I will now be crafting crafters. with a crafter. Yes! Yes! You see, every time it activates, it has time to refill before it activates again. Now I have all the crafters I'll ever need. All the crafters anyone in this realm will ever need. I think I'd like to dress this up a little bit, and it will be done. It's been a little while, and I may have gone a little bit overboard, but let's show you the final finished product. You'll see here that I added a library area for corporate headquarters, and this is right above where the crafter is. And this is the top of the crafter. I'll show you what I did over there in a second. All the outputs go right out to this double chest here, where all the crafters get put, and the guts of the whole mechanism's in here. I found a slight flaw in this design, and that was the crafter that was making planks was putting out way more planks than the crafter that was making crafting tables could keep up with. And what would end up happening is this double chest of planks would overflow. And it would, the plank crafter would just start spitting out planks that wouldn't go into the chest because it would be full. So what I've done is I've added some overflow protection to the system. Now, I haven't tested this yet, but hopefully it should work. So now this is popping out planks like crazy, and it's doing it way faster than the crafting table maker can keep up with. But I have a comparator here that's in subtraction mode. And what that means is it subtracts the strength of the input from the side from the strength of the input coming from behind. There's a redstone block here, which means I have redstone dust of power 15 there, 14 coming into the side of the comparator. So it subtracts 14 from whatever the strength of the output will be, which means it's only going to put out an output when this chest is full. And when that happens, it powers this target block, which powers that redstone dust, powering this target block. And that's going to be powered as long as this double chest is full. That means this crafter making the planks will be locked and won't continue to make more planks until that chest empties out a little bit. Well, I think that will work, but it's going to be difficult for me to test it because it turns out I don't have overflow protection for the crafter making crafting tables. And yeah, I'm backed up with crafting tables. So that one underneath is going to start spitting out crafting tables. I just don't have enough space to work with next to all the other stuff to make overflow protection for that as well. Yeah, you know what? I'm satisfied. It works well enough. And honestly, it is exactly what I expected it would turn out to be. A giant, massive Rube Goldberg device. But it can be fun to make stuff like this, and you know, you learn things about doing things with redstone that could be applied to something more practical. Speaking of something more practical, I have big plans for next time, because one of the downsides of 1.21 is it broke certain farms, including the creeper farm that I made a while back. Yeah, that's broken, and I have to work on fixing that next time on Amon Chooses Divergence SMP.